Welcome to another Telltale Books video. I'm your host Greg. I'm going to be talking about the June 2004 issue. I'm going to be talking in this video about the June 2004 issue of Asimovs Science Fiction magazine, which I've already posted a video talking about the cover by Fred Gambino. Now I want to get into the stories, and there's a lot in this issue that I wanted to pull out and talk about individually. So I can only talk about the short stories in the issue, really, because there's just so many really good stories in here. There's 3 Nebula Award finalists in this one issue. It's pretty remarkable. 3 Nebula Award finalists from this one issue. And then there's a story by Neil Asher, and I want to do a deep dive into Neil Asher, so I want to pull all of his stories out into individual videos. So I got to talk about his story separately. So mainly went back to this because of the May-June 2025 issue being connected to stories that are connected to stories that are connected to stories in back issues, and got me back to the 2012 issue of Asimovs, where there's a story by James Patrick Kelly that's a sequel to the lead story in this issue, Men Are Trouble. So I came back here to read Men Are Trouble. And fortunately, there weren't any stories in here that were sequels to earlier stuff, so I didn't go back any further than that. So this issue was really, really good, and I'll talk about the things that I'm not going to break out. Starting with, I got to mention the Reflections. Reflections is a thing that Robert Silverberg has been doing in Asimovs for a lot of years. So every issue of Asimovs, he has this 2-3 page essay and covers a lot of very interesting subjects. In this one, he tries to make a case for tracing stories not back to the Epic of Gilgamesh, tracing the origin of literature, not back to the Epic of Gilgamesh, but to the story of Dionysus, god of wine, fertility, and the downtrodden. And he sees the creation of early poems and plays in connection with the feast of Dionysus as the way to let the masses blow off steam, and it was the foundation for what became literature. Very interesting article, really interesting. Then going through the issue one at a time, My Mother Dancing is a Nebula Award finalist, 2005 Nebula Award finalist by Nancy Kress. So I'll be talking about that separately. The next story, The Gladiators' War, a Dialogue, is a novelette by Lois Tilton. That again is a Nebula Award finalist for 2004, though. Kind of strange how that one worked. And so I'll talk about that one separately. There's a poem by Bruce Boston, who was a regular contributor for many, many years. I believe he just recently died. We just recently lost him. The next short story is The Veteran by Neil Asher, and Neil Asher is one I want to do a deep dive. The Veteran is number 50 in his bibliography. I'll be breaking that out, and that'll actually then be the start of my deep dive into Neil Asher with his 50th published work, and then I'll go back to the beginning. So the first one I can really get into here is Fallow Earth by Paul Melko. It's a short story. Now, I'm not familiar with Paul Melko, so I looked up a little bit of information on him. Fallow Earth was his first sale to Asimovs. He was born in Ohio in 1968. He has not published much and only one story since 2012. His website does not seem to have been updated since 2012, so he's pretty much abandoned his website. Don't know what's going on. In 2006, he was a finalist with a different story for both Hugo and Nebula Awards. So he had a pretty good career going, and then he just seems to have dropped off the face of the earth. But in Fallow Earth, you have a spaceship that looks just like a VW Beetle crash land in a creek. near some teenagers, and the teenagers, see this crash, and they go and they see a driver in it, and they pull the driver out, and the driver, of course, is an alien because it's a spaceship. And the alien says other aliens are after him because he wants to change the focus of Earth's scientific research and change the future. So one of the teenagers vows to help him do this. I won't give away any more of the story than that. It was a very good and enjoyable story. Not a top tale, but definitely if you pick up this issue of Asimovs, I recommend you check that story out. It's a good story. After that comes Turing Test by Robert R. Chase. It's just a short story. Chase is another author I'm not familiar with, although I did review another story of his in the November-December 2023 issue of Asimovs, which was only a good story. It wasn't too notable. He was born in Massachusetts in 1948. He has written 3 novels and quite a few short stories, first publishing in 1984. And he's still publishing steadily today, mostly in analog and Asimovs. So if you're not reading the main magazines, you need to subscribe if you like this guy's work. And like I say, that more recent one I read, it titled Neptune's Acres, that wasn't too impressive to me, but this one was a little more interesting, because in this story it's told as a record of an interview. A man is interviewing a scientist about that person's involvement with another scientist who was trying to create a perfect human race and specifically trying to wipe out disease in human beings, and he was using AI software to do it, building AI versions of human systems and then introducing different diseases into that system, and then trying to see what could be done to wipe it out and cure it. So trying to advance medical science by manipulating AI. But the software gets loose from his systems and infects other AI systems, and now you've got these diseases running through everything. And it was mostly a good story, but the ending was kind of unclear to me. It left too many unanswered questions about what's going on and about this whole world. It was an interesting world. I wanted to know more, and it was just left hanging with a lot of it. So definitely not a top tale, but worth a read. If you get a hold of this magazine, worth a read. And like I say, Chase has written a lot of other stuff. It's worth keeping an eye on this guy, looking out for his stories when you come across them. After that is a story by a woman named Ruth Berman, titled The Buried Sword. It's just a short story, and it was really interesting to me because I've been planning. I knew I was going to read The Gunslinger by Stephen King, and I found out The Gunslinger was based on the poem Child Roland to the Dark Tower Came, and I learned that poem drew the character of Roland from the Song of Roland, which is a French epic poem from way back in the 1000s, around 1090 or something like that. And so when I started reading this story and found out this is all about Roland, I thought, what a coincidence, how cool that I came across this short story right now when I'm reading all that other stuff. Now, Ruth Berman, I'm not very familiar with. I looked up a little bit. She has mostly written poetry, but she has done a fair number of short stories, starting in 1968. She was born in Minneapolis on November 15th, 1942. But her most recent prose work was the novel Bradamant's Quest, published in 2011. And The Buried Sword in 2004 is her last short story I can find any information on to date. So she hasn't written since 2011. That's almost 15 years now that she's been inactive. And it's too bad because this was a really enjoyable story. It's a historical fantasy set after the battle where Roland dies. And the battle was in 778 AD. So this is the time frame, 780s or so. And the character Bradamant lost her husband in that battle, and she's also cousin to Roland. And so she takes her hippogriff, a fantasy creature, and goes to a memorial that Charlemagne built in the mountains where the battle took place. And that's where Roland is buried, and she digs him out, and he comes to life somehow, and she fights him to get his sword because she wants his magical sword. His sword is supposedly magical in this story. So the story took the history from the Song of Roland and added in a lot of fantastic touches to make a really, really good fantasy story. It's a solid story. I really liked it. Not a top tale again, but definitely recommend it. I would suggest if you do get a hold of this issue of Asimovs somehow, or you already have it, that you don't skip that story. It's very good. After that is a short story titled Sleep Silence by Lena DeFay. Hope I pronounced that right. And I didn't find much information about this author. I've never heard of her before. She's published about 10 works between 1999 and 2004. This story is the last published story that I have information about. Don't know what she's done since then. But in this story, you have a narrator following a path taken by a geologist who is also a poet in Valles Marineris on Mars, the huge canyon on Mars. And it was an okay story, but it didn't really impress me much. It was just okay. I don't think I can recommend it, but I don't know, maybe you would like it. And then after that comes Men Are Trouble, which I'm going to do a separate video on. So, a pretty incredible issue. A lot of good things going on. And very worth reading if you can get a hold of a copy. And I didn't have any trouble getting a hold of a copy that's in like brand new condition. It didn't cost me much. And I've already read this and I took care of it. And it's still in great shape. So if you want to read that issue, you too can get a really good copy at a reasonable price and enjoy all these stories. And they are enjoyable and very well worth it. It's one of the better issues. You know, some science fiction magazines, you usually have at least one really good story in it, but sometimes the rest of it kind of is not so great. And then sometimes you get issues where you just story after story is really incredible. Usually you get a mix, 2 or 3 really good ones, 2 or 3 that you go, eh. This story is mostly up there, you know, overall above average for a science fiction magazine. So I recommend it. The whole issue. It's really good. Have you read the June 2004 issue of Asimovs Science Fiction? Do you have any thoughts, comments you'd like to make? Please put them in the comment section of this video for everybody to appreciate. And otherwise, I'm going to be covering the stories that I want to break out individually in the next few days after this video goes up. So look for those. I will be back. I hope you'll come back and watch me for those videos and all the other videos we do. You know, from here I'm moving on to the April-May issue of Asimovs where James Patrick Kelly continues with The Last Judgment, following up on Men Are Trouble. So join me for all that.